Good morning, everyone. Joy and Jerry are here again today, and we are in the parables of Jesus, and we are in
the weeds.
In the weeds
in the
right
weeds.
now. Yeah, we're going to talk about the weeds today because that's the parable that Jesus was talking about here. He's talking about the weed and the tares, or the weeds, growing together. But anyway, that's what we're going to discuss.
So we're in Matthew 13.
Matthew 13, 24 through 30 is where we're studying today. And that's the only one. Mark and Luke are not in this for some reason. But
They probably weren't there that day.
probably not.
Was Luke the doctor?
Yeah, who
He was
knows?
probably doctoring Mark or
Mark.
something. I don't know.
Anyway, I'll be reading out of the King James Version. Joel will be reading out of the Living Bible. And we'll get started. This is Matthew 24 through 30. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst thou not sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn.
Yes, all right. I'll read it from the Living Translation. Here is another illustration Jesus used. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer sowing good seed in his field. But one night, as he slept, his enemy came and sowed thistles among the wheat. When the crop began to grow, the thistles grew too. The farmer's men came and told him, Sir, the field where you planted that choice seed is full of thistles. An enemy has done it, he exclaimed. Shall we pull out the thistles? They asked. No, he replied. You'll hurt the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until the harvest. And I will tell the reapers to sort out the thistles and burn them and put the wheat in the barn. Yes, and remember we're talking about the kingdom of heaven. And it is like this. So Burnsides, what do you think about how is it like the kingdom of heaven?
Well, it talks in here about, obviously, good, faithful Christian people living in a society which is full of evil and full of what he calls weeds, which are the individuals that are alive, which produce no good fruit, but all they produce is evil fruit, which means they are bad people, so to speak. And it's...
They're going to be burned.
Yes, but it all comes down to God, which is going to make the decision about that and not man, because like he said, if it was up to man here to do this, then all kinds of chaos would occur here, because like he said, you would rip up the good
with the bad.
And so you don't know how much influence this particular so-called good person who's tearing up all this stuff, or trying to anyway, is actually good or bad. So it all gets very chaotic and confused. But in the end, and it says here in verse 30, And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, I is God.
Well, not in this case, I is the farmer.
I know, but
But it's like the kingdom of heaven, and in the kingdom of heaven it would be God
God, that's
would
correct.
tell the reapers.
God will tell the reapers who to pick and who not to pick.
Right.
And he will take the wheat and put it in his barn, which means you'll get raptured, okay? Which is taking the
I don't
wheat.
know if you'll be raptured.
Well,
The
you
rapture,
will be saved. Let's put it that
I
way.
think that's Judgment Day.
It
I
could
think
mean-
that's
it
the
could
Judgment
mean
Day, the
final-
harvest, when God decides who accepted Jesus as their Savior and who didn't, and then they'll be separated.
That's the final judgment.
That's the, I don't think it's the rapture, because the rapture
Is pride.
happens before that, and after that there'll be more wheat and more tares.
That's
And so
true.
it has to be, in my opinion, the final harvest.
Which would be 1,000 years, okay?
Well, we don't know how many years. You know, our years are
Well, it says
different than
a
God's
millennium,
years.
You know, in the
Well, it
Bible.
doesn't say when Judgment Day will be.
No, that's when Satan is let out of the pit for whatever reason. I
Right.
don't really have a
And
figure
then
on
you have
that.
time after that where people choose Jesus or they choose Satan. So
Correct.
you don't know how much time that's going to be.
That's true, you don't, because the
See?
Bible doesn't say that.
Right. So we don't know the timing. We just know that God is the final judge on what's wheat and what's tares.
Yeah,
Who is saved, who is not.
Yeah.
And the whole Bible is very, very clear, number one, on how to get saved, and very clear on what's going to happen to you if you aren't.
that's true. So that's basically what this whole parable is talking
Yeah.
about. You know, and he puts it again like in parables, like wheat and weeds, or wheat and tares. The Lord puts those in there so these disciples, you gotta understand, these people were 2,000 some odd years ago. And it wasn't modern society like we have today and all these kind of things going on here, but he's trying to teach them in their common
And their understanding.
Terms.
Right.
as to what we're talking about here and what they represent. So
Right.
basically,
And when he
that's-
says, Jesus is telling them, an enemy has done it. Who's the enemy?
yeah,
The enemy is Satan.
right.
And boy, if you can't see that in America today, my friends, in
All over
whatever
the world.
country you're in, all over the world,
Yeah, all over the
the
world.
wheat and the tares, it is so extremely obvious. Extremely. You know, used to, Satan was kind of hidden in dark places, dark tunnels and dark buildings, and didn't really come out where everybody could see him openly doing all of the horrible things he does, like turning little boys into girls and little girls into boys. But now it's very, very out in the open. In fact, we heard yesterday, who were we watching? I forget who said what. It was Hagee. Hagee said that TikTok now has a app called Witch, excuse me, Witch, W-I-T-C-H, Witch Talk, teaching whoever watches it
Young people,
how to
basically.
do satanic spells. Yes, and how to get even with people who hurt you. It's horrible. It's coming from China, and China is trying to destroy America from within, and boy, they're doing a great job of it. And then, what else did he say? It just slipped my mind. He said, I wasn't going to say about TikTok or Witch Talk. It'll come back to me in a minute. Jerry, you talk. It'll come to me right in the middle of your sentence.
Oh,
Oh, I know what it was.
okay.
He said that the schools now are having satanic clubs.
Yeah, that's been going on. for
Grade
some time,
schools,
actually.
yes, high schools, satanic clubs. I don't know if it's been going on a long time, but now it is obvious in the open, and you can see it on the schedules. Here, join the satanic club after school, blah, blah, blah.
And
Insanely.
yet they prohibit Bibles in the schools.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
prohibit prayer in the schools.
That's right.
I mean, it's,
It's because
if it's
Satan
not
did
obvious,
that.
I don't know what it is.
It
you
is,
know.
it's so, so obvious.
But God understood that mankind is not able to separate the tares from the wheat.
Right, right, because they're right here among us all the time.
Yes, because you are not allowed and you're not capable of doing that, because only God is omnipotent and
Right,
omnipresent.
right. But
He
we,
knows what's going to happen in the future.
but Jesus gave us the power to resist the devil.
Yes, you did.
So even though we're the wheat and we've got tares all over the place, we don't have to let them influence us. We don't have to let them in our home. We don't have to let them have our children. But Jesus gave us the power and authority to stand against demons before he went to heaven after he was crucified.
And one of those powers is the power of two you talked about yesterday too, which
Yeah,
it says in the word, if any two of you agree as to touching anything,
right.
you know.
One can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000.
to flight.
Hagee
What
said
are they
the
putting-
multiplication of that is beyond
What, you know, what
what
does
you
he
can even
mean?
imagine.
What does he mean by 1,000 take to
Demons.
flight? What
Demons.
he's talking about is the terrors
The
and the
devils.
demons and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but in groups of two. He sent all his disciples out in groups of two.
Right.
Okay, because you have much more power when there's agreement in two.
Yes. And imagine 3 or 4 or
Yeah, and last week we
10.
talked about, you know, getting one person is one denomination or sort and another is another denomination or sort, and there's
Yeah.
no
agreement, no
there.
unity.
So there's no power there.
Right.
It just all gets lost in confusion
Right.
and discord and all kinds of different
Well,
things.
our church teaches this. Well, our church teaches that. Well, our church says healing passed away. Well, our church says healing didn't pass
And
away.
there is so much of that today,
Yeah.
because one religious sect over here will say just what she said. One believes in this area of the Bible, the other one doesn't, or they want to change it, or they do something differently.
Yeah.
Or some religious sects won't even allow their people to
Read the Bible. Yeah, or they have their own Bible. China's rewriting the Bible, making Jesus a horrible murderer. Because China can't keep their people from reading the Bible, so now they're just going to change it.
They're gonna change
Here,
it.
read it all you want, but they've changed it.
And you know what the word says about that.
Oh boy.
You are condemned to hellfire and brimstone, whatever.
Oh.
When you do that kind of thing, you don't change God's word.
That's the kind of church I grew up in, the hellfire and brimstone one.
Yeah.
People say, when were you saved? Well, which time? Our church, I was Nazarene, and they taught you could backslide. So I was constantly at the altar on Sunday or Wednesday night or whenever it was, we were always at church, getting saved again because I'd backslid by not minding my parents or telling a lie or something, I don't know, but
That's just a common misunderstanding.
I looked at a
of
boy.
God's word.
I dared to look at a boy. My daddy said, if a boy walks you home from school, I was 16, if a boy walks you home from school, that's your date. So I had a boy walking me home from school every day, so I was always at the altar getting saved again over that one. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Get out a gun and shoot the guy? You're not allowed to walk next to me. My dad had some crazy rules, and that's because of the way he was raised.
There you
He
go.
was raised with everything's a sin. And if your daughter gets near a boy, she's going to be pregnant in 5 minutes, so just keep them apart as long as you can. Oh my goodness.
How times have changed.
How times have changed. All right, my dear, that's about the end of the weeds. And speaking of weeds, Jerry has been super busy down here at our house, spraying all the weeds and taking care of outside stuff. In fact, he got poked in the nose with a branch yesterday, crawling under a hedge, trying to fix something. Bless his heart. Anyway, you got anything else to
I was
say,
trying
dear?
to clean out the dryer vent. was what I
Yeah, he was
to
trying to clean out the dryer vent. and
Which
it's
is about 20
behind a great big hedge.
It's about 25 feet long or so. It's pretty long, and it was behind a hedge, which is pretty prickly to begin with.
25-year-old hedge that's very thick.
Very thick and very prickly.
Yeah.
It's a.
It's a holly bush.
It's a holly bush, which you know what those leaves are like. I mean, it was a nightmare, but anyway.
That's why he's wearing this shirt today. He's covering up his arms
Well-
where he got scratched and stabbed and everything else.
Well, they put me on this blood thinner because of my heart issues.
Yeah.
And you bleed easily. when
And you
get
bruise very easily.
And I stuck my hand up in there, and when I did that, I rubbed up against the pipe pretty hard, and there's 2 big old splotches of bruise here, so I cleaned.
He's got one on his nose and 2 on
I don't
his
look
arm.
like I've been in a fight or anything.
But that's all right. They heal because healing is for today.
That's
We've
true.
got to go. Say goodbye.
We hope you all had a good week. This is Monday, I know. We're sorry that we didn't get to it yesterday. For whatever reason we did.
Blame it on the dryer.
I guess, but I probably could have done that today, but whatever. Anyway, we apologize for that, so we decided to do it on Monday, so we wouldn't miss a week. And with that, we'll just say goodbye. You all have a blessed week. And we will see you hopefully next Sunday. We'll be back in
Or the
Tulsa
house,
area.
yeah.
And yeah, we're going back there tomorrow, so.
So bye for now.